Disney and Lucasfilm are currently focused on Star Wars Episode 9, 3 live-action TV series, as well as the Clone Wars Season 7. However, that's not all. They are also focused on the new Star Wars trilogy, also known as the 4th trilogy by the creators of Game of Thrones, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Also, the 5th trilogy by creator Rian Johnson of The Last Jedi. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that a lot of people are really excited about is, of course, the new Star Wars trilogy that will come after Star Wars Episode 9. So, the first trilogy that Disney and Lucasfilm are using as their priority over, of course, the other one is the, of course, D&D trilogy. The ones by the creators of Game of Thrones is Disney's priority as of right now. However, what's really intriguing is that today we actually learned, all thanks to Kathleen Kennedy, that the two trilogies will actually work together. They will both be linked, and meaning that, of course, each and every movie is going to release every other year. So, for example, here, let's say the first movie of the 4th trilogy releases in 2021 or 22 by the creators of Game of Thrones. Then the next year you have Rian Johnson's, and then so on and so forth, alternating, if you will. This is what Kathleen Kennedy had to say to Anthony Breznican when asking about the actual Star Wars new trilogy and about moving it forward and or backward before the prequels and or after the Skywalker saga and stuff around those lines. So when asked about moving the franchise to a period before the established Disney canon, Kathleen Kennedy said this: "Yes, absolutely. I think that's absolutely on the horizon," she said. "We're looking at whether we can move massively in one direction or the other. It's still Star Wars, and holding on to the DNA of what George created is still very important to us. I think this is a huge opportunity to step into the galaxy in a little bit different part of the timeline," Kennedy added. So that's what she had to say about the upcoming projects as well as the new Star Wars trilogy. And pay attention to what she said at the very end there, where it's still Star Wars and holding on to the DNA of what George created is still very important to us. I really do hope that she means that, because if you guys look at the interview where, you know, she's next to George Lucas saying that she would take care of these characters and what they did to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Say what you will, guys, everybody has their own opinion, but I had a lot of issues with Luke in The Last Jedi, and it really didn't seem like Kathleen Kennedy pretty much, you know, held up to her word there. So I'm just hoping that she really means it in this quote when she states, you know, "I think this is a huge opportunity to step into the galaxy in a little bit different part of the timeline." So the new trilogy is really going to take Star Wars in a different direction. It's said to be a mixture of Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and Star Wars into one big, massive Star Wars trilogy. The first film, by the way, right now is codenamed and or being referred to as Star Wars X. In other words, Star Wars Episode 10. Now, we may not see the first film of the new trilogy until, like I say, 2021 or 22. They're taking a one-year break at the very least for Star Wars movies in 2020. So no movies for 2020, which is to be expected because they're focusing on television. They want to get The Mandalorian known. They want to get the Cassian Andor TV series known and out there. And they're also working on what is said to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. And that's a huge question for sure on whether or not Ewan McGregor will be involved in that TV show. So the new Star Wars trilogy, you know, you guys may have heard a couple of weeks ago that apparently it's going to be based within the Old Republic era, hundreds of years before the Skywalker saga. And I think what Kathleen Kennedy said here just supports this even all the more so when Breznican asks about whether they're going to move the franchise to a period before the established canon. You know, she says, "Yes, absolutely. I think that's absolutely on the horizon." So she can't really give us the truth, obviously. She can't give everything away. But that's what she had to say in that interview with Anthony Breznican about the future of this franchise and the Old Republic era and stuff like that, the new Star Wars trilogy. Now, my point of view, the new Star Wars trilogy really should deliver and should be based within the Old Republic because it's the best way to go about doing things. As we heard, the Old Republic is apparently what Disney, Lucasfilm, and of course everybody involved with the franchise is aiming to do in order to really connect it to that mythology. Now, the only thing that I'm a little confused with is that today we did in fact learn that this new Star Wars trilogy by the creators of Game of Thrones is going to be linked to the Rian Johnson trilogy. So David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, in case you guys did not know, they are working very closely with Rian Johnson. Now, in case you guys are worried, you know, for those of you who do not like Rian Johnson's work on The Last Jedi, which is perfectly fine, everybody has their opinion, I don't believe that this necessarily means that Rian Johnson will have any effect on, of course, the 4th trilogy by the Game of Thrones guys. It just means that Rian's new trilogy most likely is going to have somewhat of a connection to the other trilogy by the creators of Game of Thrones, if that makes sense. So now you can really see that they're trying to really interconnect everything in order to make everything just feel like it is Star Wars and keeping that George Lucas, philosophy alive of what Star Wars really is. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.